Imagine flying a route carved by aviation pioneers nearly a century ago. No GPS, no modern instruments, just beacons, concrete arrows, and a vast landscape to guide you. We'll fly one of these routes flown by the pioneers of early commercial aviation. Contract Airmail Route Number 9, a route that ran from Chicago to Minneapolis. We'll be flying along the Mississippi River, over scenic bluffs, through rural farmland, to the midway point of this route, the Lone Rock Tri-County Airport. I was invited to and getting ready to go to a fly-in at the Lone Rock Tri-County Airport, and honestly, I didn't know much about its history. I was curious, so I started to dig a little deeper, and I discovered the airport's rich past as part of Contract Airmail Route Number 9. The idea of flying this route nearly a century after the early pioneers of airmail intrigued me. Famous pilots like Charles Lindbergh were instrumental in early airmail service, and that was inspiring to me. Fortunately, the checkpoints along this route were all pretty well documented, and thanks to modern technology, I'm able to grab the GPS coordinates for each one of those sites so I can recreate the path that would have been taken by early airmail pilots. After departing my home airport, we'll stop at my first checkpoint, which is a beacon just on the bluffs overlooking Holman Field in St. Paul. It's one of two artifacts that remain on this route that would have marked the path. I'll then proceed to the next marker that still exists, which is in a field in Cottage Grove. From there, I'll follow the route to where the Mississippi and St. Croix rivers converge. I'll then follow that route down the Mississippi River over to La Crosse, Wisconsin, where I'll then cut southeast to our final destination, the Lone Rock Tri-County Airport. Along the way, I'll point out some of these checkpoints to you and talk a little bit more about the history of the early airmail routes. So with our route planned, it's time to depart. Fuel pump on, battery alternator beacon is on. That looks good, let's start.
Anoka Ground, good afternoon. Sundowner 6977 Romeo, Pennsylvania West. Information uniform, ready to taxi for departure to the southeast towards St. Paul.
November 6977 Romeo, Anoka Ground, runway 18 taxi Charlie, Bravo, Charlie 1, Alpha 5, cross runway 9er.
18 via Charlie, Bravo, Charlie 1, Alpha 5, crossing 9er to 1877 Romeo.
As I taxi out, there's a buzz of excitement. Every mile and every landmark ahead connects me to the daring pilots who flew this path nearly a century ago.
77 Romeo, Anoka Tower, runway 18, line up and wait.
Runway 18, line up and wait, 77 Romeo. All right, let's go.
Can you make runway 27?
Not quite, I can get Bravo.
6 for Quebec, continue down the runway to Alpha 2, make the right turn at Alpha 2 and contact ground point 85.
18 on the paint,
Down
18
to
here.
Alpha 2 and we'll get
18 here.
185.
Number 6977 Romeo, wind 200 at 5, runway 18, left turn out, clear for takeoff.
Runway 18, clear for takeoff, left turn out approved, 77 Romeo.
Number 5003 Pop, runway 18,
There we
clear
go.
to land, wind 210 at 4.
Clear to land at 18 for 03 Pop.
Clear check 160, number 2, runway 18, clear to land, start your base.
Airspeed's coming alive.
Runway 18 clear to land. Sorry.
Instruments looking at the green. 60. And rotate. Looking for 86 on the climb out.
And tower number 5003 Papa. The parking would be this one over here on my right.
We're going to give these towers up ahead of us here some healthy respect. Go a little bit more over to the east first before we cut back over. So we're only going to do about 2,000 right now just because we're going to be staying underneath the shelves of our Class Bravo airspace over here. St. Paul Tower, good afternoon. Sundowner 6977 Romeo. Information Quebec at the Shoreview Towers with a request.
Sundowner 6977 Romeo, St. Paul Tower. Good afternoon, say request.
I'd like to transition your airspace from the north to the southeast, staying on the east side of the river at 2000.
Sundowner 77 Romeo, approved as requested, St. Paul altimeter 3006.
Roger, approved as requested. Copy the altimeter 77 Romeo, thanks. So the first point we're going to fly on our route here is going to be the tower that was adjacent to St. Paul Airport. It's kind of a skeleton tower. They painted them yellow that were easy to observe. And this would be one of those marker points that people would be looking for flying these routes. Now, it's the only piece of infrastructure that still remains on this route. A lot of those were the concrete arrows that would be associated with a tower like this, and there would be a concrete arrow that would actually point them in the direction that they need to fly. They just don't exist anymore, unfortunately.
As we fly over the St. Paul downtown airport, the city skyline stands tall overlooking the mighty Mississippi. This is where our journey begins, retracing the footsteps of the aviation pioneers who flew this very route, navigating by sight, instinct, and sheer determination. From here, our adventure truly begins.
All right, so where we're flying over right now is Cottage Grove, Minnesota, actually where I grew up. We just flew over Park High School, and the waypoint that we're approaching was in a field not too far from where I lived. I had no idea that this even existed as I grew up, and it wasn't until recently when I began to research these airmail routes that I found out I was just like a stone's throw away from one of these things. So we're going to be at the convergence of two rivers here in a second. We've got the Mississippi that is off to our right-hand side. St. Croix, which is the Minnesota-Wisconsin border up until Prescott here, is going to be off to our left. The watercolors over this area are pretty distinct when the two rivers meet up. It's really cool to see from the water. We'll see if we can pick up the differences in the murkier, muddy waters of the Mississippi where they meet with the St. Croix here when the St. Croix flows into it.
Let's reflect a bit on the history of the early airmail service. The first serious use of aviation in the United States began in 1918, when the U.S. Post Office started airmail service to improve mail delivery and reduce costs. The pilots of these early flights followed concrete arrows. These arrows were known as beacon stations, and they were placed about 10 miles apart, each arrow pointing to the next, helping guide pilots across the country. The beacons themselves were mounted on 50-foot towers with bright rotating lights. As airmail service grew, Contract Airmail Route Number 9 was established. This is the route that gave birth to Northwest Airlines.
Minneapolis Center, Sundowner 6977 Romeo, just over Red Wing 3500.
Correction, 6977 Romeo, Minneapolis Center, welcome to wind on altimeter 3011.
301177 Romeo.
Passing over Red Wing and the Pierce County Islands, the river carves its way through the landscape, a stunning reminder of the natural beauty that guides our flight.
So what we're recreating as we do fly this route is the contact flying that the earlier airmail pilots would have flown. So we're going to fly at 3,500 for a lot of different reasons. One, gives us a little bit more room should we have any type of malfunctions or failures that I have to find a place to land. So as they would contact fly, they would fly from point to point, and those points could be cities, it could be a turn on a river, things like that, to help them guide their way, because they didn't have the early instrumentation or the radios to be able to navigate the way that we do today. We're going to turn to follow the river here. That is one of the nice things about this route. We do have a lot of great area C as we fly along the Mississippi River. So this is a nice wide part known as Lake Pepin.
Our next waypoint is in Alma, Wisconsin, a city snugly stretched between the Mississippi River and steep 500-foot bluffs. The city of Alma is only 2 streets wide, and there's 12 historic stair steps that allow visitors to travel from Main Street to 2nd Street.
I do think it's pretty incredible, all the changes that we've had in technology in like just 100 years since they've been flying these routes. I mean, I've got GPS coordinates plugged into ForeFlight. I'm talking to air traffic control on the radio. We're recording this.
I'm sorry, I was offline with tower again.
I mean, it's incredible. In 100 years, we can come this far.
This is our 612 Tango traffic at your 11 to 12 o'clock in about 5 miles opposite direction is a BE-23, 3,500.
Hey, that's me.
Okay, look at 12 Tango. November 77 Romeo traffic at your 11 to 12 o'clock in about 5 miles opposite direction, BE-36, 4,600.
Looking for traffic, 77 Romeo. I don't see him. There he is. Not a factor. I got that traffic in sight for 77 Romeo.
Roger.
As we pass over La Crosse, Wisconsin, you can see the airport right along the river, a key waypoint for early airmail pilots. This is where our landscape will start to change. We're leaving behind the towering river bluffs and transitioning into rolling farmlands of rural Wisconsin. For the remainder of our flight, it offers a peaceful, expansive view as we continue towards Lone Rock.
November 77 Romeo, contact Chicago Center on 133.905.
Or Chicago Center, 133.905. Good day.
Yeah.
Chicago Center, good afternoon. Center 6977 Romeo, 3,500.
November 6977 Romeo, Chicago Center, welcome to Dispute Altimeter 3016. 3015.
3015 for the altimeter, Center 77 Romeo. Once we're over Richland here, well, I think we'll start our descent down to the pattern altitude of 1,700.
Approach on 135.45. Number 6977 Romeo, advise us Lone Rock Airport in sight.
Chicago Center, Center 6977 Romeo, airport's in sight, like to request change to advisory.
And November 6977 Romeo, roger. VFR flight following is terminated. Squawk 1200, you are cleared from center frequency, and you can change to advisory once you're ready.
Squawk and VFR, and then over to advisory for 77 Romeo. Have a good day. Check landing light, nav lights, rotating beacons on, pitot heat, consider reject, battery alternate, fuel boost, primer is in and locked, mixtures to rich, carb heat, green landing check complete.
As we approach the Lone Rock Airport, we're arriving at a place where generations of pilots have visited before.
Lone Rock traffic, Sundown 77 Romeo, left base 27, Lone Rock.
The historic field served the airmail route for years and was home of a flight service station until the 1980s. Today, the airport serves as a perfect meeting place for our fly-in and a fitting tribute to its rich history of aviation past.
Morning traffic, 706 turning crosswind, runway 28, morning.
As I wrap up this flight, I can't help but reflect on the pioneering pilots who charted these skies and the rich legacy they would have left behind. Thank you so much for joining me on this historic adventure. Stay tuned for our next video where I'll dive deeper into the stories of the Lone Rock Airport and its aviation heritage.